Hello! Thank you for being here. Let's say you're whatever age and you just came to the realization that you are on the aromantic and or asexual spectrum, aka A-Spec. I really need to get that word in my vocabulary because I kind of get tired of saying aromantic and or asexual. This commenter, thank you. They said that I can say A-Spec instead of aromantic and or asexual. Anyways, you realize that you're A-Spec and you're having a hard time accepting it, being okay with it, and just, coming to terms with it. And that's okay. That's a very normal reaction. As living creatures, we tend to be hardwired to be scared or want to push away from something that is new or different than what we're used to, or fear to go against what we already know or what we've been taught. Just kind of how like a lot of races and homophobes, queerphobes, xenophobes, and all the other stuff are formed. It's the fear or aversion of, difference. But that is why it's up to us to overcome that fear of difference or newness and whatever. And when it comes to accepting being A-Spec, maybe I can help you with that by sharing my personal experience with self-acceptance and give you some tips that might help with accepting yourself, and with the help of commenters sharing their A-Spec journey and A-Spec joy, with us all, because they're so cool and so awesome. Leave a comment, okay? And if you share your story with us, because I know some of you will, thank you in advance. We really appreciate it. It really helps people, and it makes me feel good about even posting stuff. It's good for everybody. It's good for the soul. It's good for the heart. I don't know, man. Shut up. Oh, and if this is your first video of mine, thank you for showing up. It took you long enough. Also, if you don't already know, because this is your first video, I am both aromantic and asexual. Full-on aromantic and then gray sexual. So if you find more comfort in watching this type of video from someone who is also aromantic and or asexual, or who's also A-Spec, here I am. But also, whoa, what the fuck? And also other creators who are not A-Spec talking about being A-Spec and stuff like that, they can help too, because when I was first watching YouTube and stuff, watching queer YouTube, trying to figure out who I am, the videos that I watched about being aromantic and being asexual, they weren't asexual or aromantic themselves. They were just, well versed in it. And if you're well versed in the topic and you know what you're talking about, and you can talk about it too. I'm just also here, so watch my video too, okay? Subscribe. So let's start from the beginning. You probably knew for years that you function a bit differently from the rest of your peers, but you weren't sure what it was. Either someone told you about aromanticism or asexuality. Like in my case, I had an old friend in middle school, because I had suspicion since middle school that I was, a little different. And they were like, yeah, you're probably asexual. And I was like, I think so. It's perfectly fine to have suspicion as a kid, but I feel like you shouldn't, fully have a grip on the balls of it until you're, are an adult. Use whatever labels that you feel comfortable, but don't be so quick to glue yourself to it, because if you're so young, you could be, another label. For all you know. So yeah, you probably knew for years that you function a bit differently from your peers, but you weren't sure what it was. So either someone introduced it to you, like introduced aromanticism and asexuality to you, or you found it while roaming the internet, trying to figure out what's wrong with you. I definitely did that. Roaming the World Wide Web. Why am I not like everyone else? You've done your research, listened and read about aromanticism and or asexuality. Maybe you talked to some people about it. You're pretty sure you're aromantic and or asexual, aka A-Spec. To further explain A-Spec, A standing for aromantic and or asexual, and spec standing for spectrum, in case you didn't know. So you're pretty sure you're A-Spec, and you're kind of freaking out a lot or a little, or in some cases none at all. In my case, I freaked out a lot. So, and adding on with freaking out, it doesn't really help that there's going to be some people who say weird shit about A-Spec people. You may feel like no one understands you, or no one's listening to you, or respecting like what you're saying, when it's like, hey, I'm this, and people are like, no, they're just not listening. And then they say weird stuff like, what? No, you're not. All you need is like a in your butt and you're cured or something like that. I don't know, they be saying stuff. And also what comes with the A-Spec journey sometimes is the fears you're gonna be alone, or the fear that you're not normal, or that you might wish you weren't A-Spec and that you were normal like everyone else. But all in all, those feelings that you're feeling when you're figuring out your A-Spec stuff is okay to feel. Almost every A-Spec person has gone through the same dilemma. You're not alone. And if you're clicking on this video, you're probably thinking, how do I stop feeling bad about being A-Spec? How do you accept being aromantic or being asexual? How can you be fine with it when you want to be normal like everyone else? First, let's rethink what a normal person is. The idea of a normal person kind of varies from person to person, generation by generation, place by place, country by country, and is what people believe is the average person. Being a normal person or the average person doesn't mean you can't be different. And the thing is, everyone has something that makes them different compared to everyone else. You know, no one is perfectly normal and no one is perfectly average. And I know there are cruel people in this world that would make you feel like you're not a normal person just because of your differences. Pushing their beliefs onto you and others on what they think a normal person is, and projecting their fears of being different onto you. But we're humans, you know, social human beings for the most part who care about what others think and usually don't want to feel left out. We set the standard onto ourselves of what a normal person is, and now we try to hide or run away from what makes us different. And it's not our fault that the default sexuality is to be straight, and everyone has to feel this amount of sexual feelings and this amount of romantic feelings, and everyone has to find love, get married, and have kids. Like, a lot of people want to make us think that being queer is so freaking abnormal and wrong, and it's really not. Queerness, I believe, is embedded in our freaking genetics. Like, especially if you look at the animal kingdom, animals are queer as fuck. And human-wise, we're naturally queer too. Queerness has just been demonized for no good reason for generations, that people are so scared to even be remotely linked to any type of queer anything. Like, they're terrified of it. Like, man, I am so regretful that I used to be queerphobic, like homophobic, like just all the queerphobic, transphobic, all of it. Because now, in my current age and stuff like that, my current maturity, whatever, that shit doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's even more of like a freaking mind bending because I used to be you and now I'm queer. I mean, I've always been queer, but now I'm like queer. But yeah, man, I used to cry so much because I used to feel like such a freak. Added on with the fact that I'm also bisexual or pansexual, I don't really know yet, to be honest. I'm still having a hard time knowing the difference. So tell me in the comments. I mean, I know the difference. Like, I need actual perspectives from pansexual people or bisexual people. Like, I don't know which one to choose. I've just been kind of calling myself both, but I don't really know, to be honest, okay? And I'm non-binary or genderqueer. Like, bro, give me a break, okay? Give me a break. Why am I so freaking queer? I love it though. Dab me up. Anyways, like, it was really bad when I first came out. Every little thing that I do is just like, why'd you cut your hair like that? Why are you dressing like that? You want to be a man? Leave me alone. Like, I'm tired of keeping it in, so I'm just out, okay? I'm tired of keeping it in and holding in this not secret. It's not a secret. Especially when I was posting out all these videos and they were just like, I saw your video. Okay, it's not a secret. I'm literally posting it on the World Wide Web, baby. And honestly, it's hard being the odd one out. You don't really want to be the odd one out, especially in your own freaking family. That's also why the feeling of wanting to be like everyone else kind of comes from, is that being the odd one out sucks, especially when they make you feel weird about it. What really helped me with those feelings that I'm feeling and like the negativity that I feel towards myself for being the odd one out is accepting my queerness as part of who I am, instead of allowing people to make me feel small and like weird and odd for my differences. And honestly, it didn't really help that I was raised in a queerphobic, non-progressive Christian household. You know, it didn't help. And the thing is, I used to be scared about being perceived as queer or judged negatively for it, but now I really don't care. I walk around with my pride socks on, I dress however I want, I cut my hair however I want, and you know, I look queer as and you know, that means you look good. If you don't look a little gay, do you even know how to dress? I don't hide my queerness anymore because there's nothing to hide. Nothing is wrong with what I'm doing. We're just people at the end of the day who is just being themselves and not hurting nobody. Just don't put yourself in harm's way if outing yourself is going to get you hurt or homeless or kicked out or something like that. And always trying to find good and decent people who accepts you and loves you for just who you are. And what also helped me was watching queer YouTubers, movies, listening to queer music, all the queer media, making queer friends, and always working on my mental health. So next, let's talk about the idea that being A-Spec means you're gonna be lonely. It's a lot of people's fears, not just A-Spec people. The fear of dying alone. A lot of people make it seem like it's the end of the world when they're not in a relationship. Personally, A-Spec or not, I think that kind of dependency on relationships is kind of not healthy. But what do I know? I never really wanted to be in a relationship before. I have been in like 2 of them. Shit was whack as hell. Nothing bad happened. I just wanted friendship, and I kind of just misunderstood situations and didn't really know stuff about myself. Like I was just exploring. But yeah, shit was whack. But even though I never wanted to be in a relationship, seeing other people freak out about not being in a relationship made me kind of scared. Like, should I be scared of dying alone? Adding on to the fact that friends will almost always not be able to stick around forever because they eventually find a partner, settle down, start making your own family, marriage and having kids. Your social life, it burns out a little, and you have to put in a lot of effort in maintaining, friendships, because having a family and working on a career, it takes up a lot of your time. And for the most part, almost everyone has had the experience of losing a best friend because they got a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend. You kind of just became a third wheel, and your friend kind of just forgot all about you, or it at least feels that way because your butt hurt that you don't spend as much time together anymore, and now you don't have anyone that is like the person you hang out with, And then when you're A-Spec, you feel like you've been cursed with loneliness, and you feel like you'll never find someone that suits you because you're A-Spec, or if you're full-on Aromantic like me who has no interest in marriage and stuff like that, so you won't have the safety net that is a relationship or a marriage that will ensure that you will never be alone. So in the end, you feel like you'll eventually be all alone, no friends, no partner, just alone. But come on. Let's think a little bit harder about all of this, okay? Just because your friends get in a relationship and you have a more challenging dating life, if you want a dating life at all, it doesn't mean you're destined to be alone. I get the emotional aspect of it all. Trust me, I get it. Okay, I used to cry for so long thinking about how lonely I am and how I'm gonna die alone, especially because I have issues with depression sometimes too. But gender neutral girl, you're gonna be okay. But some tips that really helped me, working on my mental health, a really unique tip, I know, keeping my days full by having work and hobbies, accepting my queerness, that would definitely help. And realizing it's okay that friends will not always be able to be around like they used to. That's just life. But also, don't be afraid to make some new friends. Honestly, the times I was crying about being destined to be alone because I'm aromantic and blah blah blah, I was really just sad because I felt lonely at the moment. But eventually I would get back into the friend making world and try my best to make friends at work and on apps, and I did make some friends. Like in recent times, I've made some friends, and I actually started hanging out with them in person. If you're a decent person, you're bound to make some friends. It just takes time and it just takes effort. Another thing you might be having a hard time with as an A-Spec person is that you probably wish you weren't queer in the first place. You think it would be easier if you weren't A-Spec and you just function like the rest of your peers. And for the plain answer, yes. It would be easier. Being queer can be dangerous, it can be challenging, and being queer can have a lot of people treat you badly for no good reason. But being queer isn't the problem. The problem is the people giving you shit for being queer. Say you leave the house in a tutu, and leaving the house in a tutu causes people to make fun of you. Is it the tutu's fault that people were making fun of you? Or was it the people that was making fun of you's fault? The people, of course. A tutu is literally just a tutu. Now imagine you couldn't ever take the tutu off. It's part of who you are ever since you were basically born. You can't change it, and covering it up is uncomfortable because it would be easier to just wear the tutu as it is. I mean, it's a freaking tutu. How the hell are you gonna cover that shit up? Anyways, I feel like I've said tutu too many times. It's not that it would be easier if you weren't queer. It would be easier if people didn't give you shit for being queer. Because in reality, you're queer. And there's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you should do about that. So if you're queer and being queer is part of who you are, just be who you are. And you can say that regardless of anything. It doesn't have to be like a queer thing. It's just be like, just just be you and be proud, you know? Unless you're a piece of shit. Don't be proud of that. It's okay to be A-Spec. It's okay to be single, to never want a relationship or to have sex or to not want it as bad as other people do. You know, it's okay. You're not freaking crazy for that. At the end of the day, it's literally your body and you don't have to give that shit to nobody in order to be somebody or to be normal or to be seen as mature or an adult or to be respected. Like, at the end of the day, that shit's yours. So keep your head up. Don't let your crown fall, king. And don't let people who don't know what they're talking about play a big role in how you should view your sexuality, your orientation, your gender, any of that, okay? Anyways, I hope this video helps you accept being A-Spec. I hope you were able to relate to at least one thing that I said. If you want to share anything in the comments about your A-Spec journey and your A-Spec struggles, feel absolutely free to. Go absolutely freaking insane in the comments, okay? Leave a like and subscribe if you want. I really think you should, and it means a lot. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.